AliCamp 2024. Ali Tutkaluk. Creating inclusive spaces, understanding the mental and emotional impacts of alcohol and drugs on digital experiences. AliCamp 2024 is brought to you by our gold sponsors Intopia and ANZ, our silver sponsor Canva, and Auslan sponsor Signhow.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. I'm Ali, and today I'm talking to you about some of my experiences working in UX design and writing, and also as an emerging researcher. So today's talk, as Sarah mentioned, is more so in that inclusive design space. So I'll be sharing some of the experiences I and my team have had recently in designing a new digital product. So, of course, I work closely with people who are facing alcohol and other drug challenges. Alcohol and other drug challenges is a mouthful, so I will be shortening that to AOD for the rest of the talk, just to get that out there first. So some of the things I want to talk about today are about how my team and I are hopefully starting to try and connect the dots between some of the challenges our audience may be facing related to their AOD use, and how we can design certain interface elements or make certain copy choices to try and mitigate some of those challenges. So let's get into it. Now, a bit about me before we start. I wear many hats, right? So I wear my industry hat. As mentioned, I work in UX design and writing. I wear an academic hat. I'm an emerging researcher. I'm a research student up at QUT in Brisbane. And of course, I wear many other hats. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. Bedtime negotiation, peacemaking, fight breaker upper, mum hat. You know it. But I mention all these hats because I'm sure you know we all wear many hats, right? And some of you might wear these hats or different hats, because we know that taking that inclusive design approach with our users, it requires us to wear many different hats, right? Or sometimes we change hats. So I'm going to start off with talking about my industry hat and talking a bit about the work I do at Lives Lived Well. Who is Lives Lived Well? We are a mental health and AOD charity. So we run services in Queensland, New South Wales, and Adelaide. Not Victoria yet. But our services are usually via telehealth or in person, but we are working on our very first e-health program, which is very, very exciting. It is called Connect Well. So up on the screen here, we have a screenshot of the dashboard that our clients will see when they log into Connect Well. So I apologize, the resolution isn't the best, that is on me, but it features some of the tools people will be able to access in Connect Well. So we have a little chat section where people can leave a message for their clinician. We have a support section where they can access activities and modules that their clinician has assigned to them. We've got a library where people can, read and watch videos, and a few other tools in there as well. So what is the point of Connect Well? So we're hoping that it's going to bridge a gap in service delivery. So currently we're finding that many of our clients, there may be that waiting period from the time of inquiry or program enrollment to when they can actually start their program or service. This is particularly true for some of our residential rehabilitation facilities where people might get enrolled and they get accepted, but then there's a 2-week, 3-week waiting period until the room is ready for them. So hopefully Connect Well can act as that sort of bridge in giving them support in that vulnerable time while they're waiting. But we are also hoping it's going to offer anyone who needs help with either mental health or AOD support, or both, access to 24/7 support. So we're launching Connect Well pretty soon with a pilot group in Brisbane, which is very exciting. However, this talk isn't really about spruiking Connect Well, and my CIO and project sponsor, I know, would be very disappointed to hear me say that. Sorry, Ben. The talk is really focusing on our experiences in talking to our clients and to our team members, and to also many of our team members who have lived experience. So I'm going to rewind a bit. Just over a year ago, when we kicked sort of the research and discovery phase off for Connect Well, and we started to think about, okay, what are we designing here? Who are we designing for? We had to really understand what our clients were facing. A few things started to sort of come up again and again. Now, this list is not exhaustive. Many of our clients do face other challenges, but these are a few of the main things that did keep coming up. So many of our clients are facing or have faced trauma. Many of them are actually intoxicated when they contact us. Many clients have digital access issues, so this could be either device access issues or internet access issues. And unfortunately, many of them do experience comorbidities, whether that's through mental health comorbidities, neurodiversities, or brain injuries as well. So today I'm going to unpack each one of these. Like I said, there are other challenges I have not covered today. We do only have 20 minutes. So I want to go through each one and talk about how we've been looking at the possible impacts of each area and what we're trying to, the design choices, the copy choices we're making to try and mitigate some of these areas. I want to start with trauma. Now, I'm not sure if anyone saw, a couple of weeks ago, the Queensland Mental Health Commission released a brilliant report on the state of trauma, and some of the stats were quite staggering. Something like, I hope I'm not misquoting, 80%, I believe it was, of people who have had AOD challenges have faced trauma in their life. So trauma is something we need to think about. Of course, many of you will be aware that when we're talking to users, doing testing and interviews, and things like that, there's a certain level of trauma-informed care that we do need to employ. I'm not going to talk about that in this session. I'm focusing on the design elements. I just wanted to put that out there. But with trauma, trauma can create a really strong sense of unpredictability. And when you have that feeling of unpredictability, you can get really big impacts on memory and attention. So I'm sure already, you're remembering a time in your life where maybe your memory or attention has been impacted, and you know how hard that is to take in information, right? So how can we design to help people who may be facing these impacts on memory and attention? Surprisingly, there's a few very, very humble little design features that do help with this. So the little old breadcrumb navigation. We have up on the screen a snippet from the Lives Lived Well website, actually. Very simple breadcrumb nav. Such a, I don't know, I feel like it flies under the radar, the old breadcrumb nav. But it is so awesome for really helping with those memory and attention challenges. It can really help ground people. It shows people where they came from, shows them where they are, right? It's really going to help with that attention and with that cognitive load. Another similar tool that we found has been helpful are progress bars or indicators. We have one up on the screen there showing sort of the progress. It's actually for an e-commerce site, and as I'm looking at this now, I'm like, you picked an e-commerce snippet of all the things to demonstrate this? But anyway, so there's a little tick as people move through each stage throughout their shopping journey. But progress bars are wonderful for tasks, right? For surveys, for registration processes. We're giving people that sense of what's coming next. We're also giving them a bit of a time sense, right? We're letting them know where they are at in the journey, how much they have left to go. That sense of what's coming is also really going to help with those feelings of unpredictability. Now, moving into the copy space a little bit more. When we're thinking about copy for buttons, we found more meaningful labels are obviously very helpful. We have an example. We could say next for a next button, sure. Or we could actually describe what is going to happen next, right? Enter address could be a better option for our clients. And then we've got another snippet here on the screen of a tile from Connect Well. It's featuring Sonia, which is our AI-powered therapist. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? I'm around to talk later if you're curious about that. But on the Sonia tile, the button is Start Session. Right, so clients know as soon as they hit that button, that session is starting, they're going to get support straight away. There's no ambiguity, they know what's going to happen there. Okay. And while we are still on the copy side, we all know about, chunking with long reams of text. We know about that. But I think if we think of that concept of scannability and then extend that to symbols and elements, right? How can we use that in our favour to help with scanning? Because we all scan, I scan, but we found that if people are in crisis, that scanning might look a little bit different, could be a little quicker, a little more erratic. So using elements to our advantage with scanning will really help. I've got a snippet on the screen from ConnectWell of our top nav. This is actually something that has not been testing very well. And that is because we found in testing, when we're asking people a task related to going to their settings, they're looking for that cog symbol. So on the screen where you can see, we don't have a cog symbol, we have my settings in text. So they're scanning, where's the cog? That's a job for me for next week. Have to figure that one out. Okay, I now want to move on to talking about intoxication. So as I mentioned before, many of our clients are under the influence when they contact us, or they might be feeling the effects from a previous night or the previous day. So the million-dollar question is, how does intoxication affect digital interaction? Well, it is no surprise to anyone that this is not widely researched due to the obvious ethics constraints. Some of you might have heard of, I think it was a few years ago now, a guy in the States had a website called The User Is Drunk, and he would get paid by companies, and he would get drunk and test their website for them. I'm serious. I think he made a decent bit of coin from that, and arguably, I suppose he was helping with user experience research. But anyway, all jokes aside, something like that, apart from missing, the scaffolds of academic research, it also isn't really representative of the experiences of someone who might have long-term substance use challenges. So what do we do in the absence of research? So for this one, I'm going to pop on my academic hat. I am a Master of Philosophy candidate at QUT, and this is actually what my proposed thesis is looking at. I'm looking at designing for people with AOD challenges. So although there isn't a lot of research around designing for intoxication, there's a lot of brilliant papers have been published around designing for other health conditions. Some really wonderful work has come out about designing for people with neurodiversities, with dementia, with cognitive impacts. So that is a help. But what's also a really big help is that there's a slew of research out there about how substances actually do affect people, right? The other effects on them. Now, I'm doing lots of reading at the moment, and anyone who has done university research knows that people are obsessed with reading. In your first year, all you do is read, and that's all anyone ever talks about. Have you been reading? Are you reading? If my supervisors are listening, yes, I'm reading. So if we do a very lightning-fast mini literature review, this is what we know. So we know that substances like MDMA can impair verbal memory and visual memory. We know that some adults who are in remission from methamphetamine use, so not even in active use, they can actually have worse cognitive deficits than those who are in active use. Alcohol dependence, we've got impairments with attention, speed of processing, visuospatial abilities. Of course, there's impairments of executive functions, balance, and then moving in even into more physical impacts. So with something like opiate withdrawal, we often see people get the shakes, or they even get droopy eyelids. That's a lot. That is a lot to consider, especially when you think that everyone is different, people are not affected the same way. And of course, then there's the added challenge when people are polysubstance users, so using more than one. But although it's not one size fits all, of course, we do start to see some common threads with this. And memory and executive functions and physical impacts are things that do often keep coming up in this literature about substance use effects. So what can we do in our design? So again, some of the things I was mentioning earlier with memory. With memory, those UI elements that are really going to help anchor, oh God, already, I have to speed up here, anchor and ground and remind people of what they're doing. Executive functions, this is around tasks and decision making. So, I mean, of course, make tasks easy, but also consider what's that minimal information you can get from people before they almost just sort of get over it and just want to leave and have second thoughts. Physical impacts, I'm sure many of you are sort of starting to think about this as well. You can imagine with a mobile device, if someone's got the shakes, we might need to think about touch target size. On desktops, if we've got lots of hover details, lots of animations, what's that experience like if someone's going to be accidentally knocking them and activating them, without meaning to? So mental models, we have found are a big help here, because even if someone is intoxicated, those mental models, they're still there. People generally know how to use a website, right? Might not do it very well, but they know what to do. So we really want to stick with relatively standard UI features, design patterns to play on those mental models. Now, I've spoken a lot about the health effects of people with AOD challenges, but now I just want to touch on some of those other effects that might not be immediately obvious around digital access, comorbidities as well. So if we think about digital access, we know many of our clients don't have access to their own phone, they could be borrowing someone's phone, they may have limited data plans, and many of them also have housing uncertainties. So 20% of our clients reported to us in the 4 weeks prior to AOD treatment, they were homeless, and an additional 21% reported facing eviction. So we've got nearly half of our clients in that time right before treatment have very severe housing uncertainties. So you can start to imagine the impacts here on things like 2FA. Maybe using a message to an SMS is not the best idea for two-factor authentication. If we're thinking limited data, we definitely want to think about the size of the site, whether it's data light. Even things like, okay, well, if they're relying on libraries, on community centres to access sites, are they comfortable doing that? So we probably don't want to splash alcohol and other drug support, across the homepage if they're going to be using that in a public space a lot. And of course, housing uncertainty impacts on charging devices, things like geolocation. So we've realised we have to be really careful, not only in how the back end is built, but in also copy choices for things like service finders. Because what are we asking people? Put your postcode in to find a service. What if they don't know their postcode? What if they're in a temporary postcode? So we have to be mindful of how we can still scoop people up and get them to services they need. I am stressed out because I'm running out of time. I want to touch on comorbidities because it's so important, especially since 65% of our clients with substance use challenges scored within the clinical range for depression and over half scored for anxiety. So we have got to consider how we present imagery and copy on our site, right? We aim for neutral, but we also do want to portray a spectrum. I will name a couple of brilliant organisations who have wonderful resources that we certainly lean on for this. Mindframe do wonderful language guides for mental health, and the network of alcohol and other drug agencies, or QNATA up in Queensland, have wonderful, their Language Matters guide is so helpful in being mindful with the copy and the language choices that we make. Okay, so I've talked about academic hat, industry hat. Haven't mentioned mum hat. Don't worry, cranky mum hat is not here. I left her in Brisbane. But you know what? Let's switch to human hat, okay? Because you don't need to be a parent to care, and to connect. And we all know that those two things are really vital in any inclusive design project. With caring, we have to care about what we're making, right? We have to care about the people we're making it for. Otherwise, we're probably not going to make the choices that are actually valuable to them. And that is only possible through connection. So I'm always so thankful to all of the people who connect with us and talk to us and share their experiences, because without them, we wouldn't be able to get anything close to the insights that we get. And they relive difficult times in their life constantly when they have these connections with us, and they do it selflessly, all to really help other people and future users of the digital services we provide. So on that note, that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Ali Camp, 2024.